I want you to imagine that you live on a planet where everyone has a skin disease. For 2 or 3,000 years, the people on your planet have suffered from the same disease. Their entire bodies are covered by wounds that are infected, and those wounds really hurt when you touch them. Of course, they believe this is some normal physiology of the skin. Even the medical books describe this disease as a normal condition. When the people are born, their skin is healthy, but around 3 or 4 years of age, they first start to see their wounds appearing. By the time they're a teenager, their wounds are all over their bodies. Can you imagine how people are going to treat each other? In order to relate to one another, they have to protect their wounds. They hardly even touch each other's skin because it's too painful. And if you touch someone's skin by accident, it can be so painful that they get angry and want to touch you back to get even. Still, the instinct to love is so strong that you pay a high price to have relationships with others. Well, imagine that a miracle happens one day. You wake up and your skin is completely healed. There are no wounds anymore, and it doesn't hurt to be touched. Healthy skin you can touch feels wonderful because the skin is made for perfection. Can you imagine yourself with healthy skin in a world where everyone has a skin disease? You cannot touch others because it hurts them, and no one touches you because they make the assumption that it will hurt you. If you can imagine this, perhaps you can understand that someone from another planet who came to visit us would have a similar experience with humans. But it isn't our skins that is full of wounds. What the visitor would discover is that the human mind is sick with a disease called fear. Just like the description of the infected skin, the emotional body is full of wounds, and these wounds are infected with emotional poison. The manifestation of the disease of anger and fear, hate, sadness, envy, and hypocrisy is the result of a disease, and all of these emotions are what make humans suffer. All humans are mentally sick with the same disease. We can even say that the world is a mental hospital. But this disease has been in the world for thousands of years. It's in the medical books, the psychiatric books, and they describe it as normal. But it's not normal. When the fear becomes too great, the reasoning mind starts to fail and can no longer take all the wounds within all the poison. And that's why people call this a mental illness, like schizophrenia, paranoia, psychosis. But these diseases are created when the reasoning mind is so frightened and the wounds are so painful that it becomes better to break contact with the outside world. Humans live in continuous fear of being hurt, and this creates a big drama wherever we go. The way humans relate to each other is so emotionally painful that for no apparent reason we get angry, jealous, envious, and sad. To even say I love you can be frightening. But even if it's painful and fearful to have an emotional interaction, still we keep going. We enter into a relationship, we get married, and we have children. I hope you all enjoyed that story as much as I did in the book Mastery of Love. And that book really shaped my life, from Don Miguel Ruiz. Just a reminder that we all have wounds, whether it's because something happened to us or because of the way that we were taught to have wounds, these boundaries that we were taught to create, or the ones that we actually created for ourselves. So for me personally, it's a reminder that life is a process of undoing and awareness to build up. Undoing meaning undoing any pain that I have or any belief systems that I have towards others when I'm engaging, but also undoing of the mental frameworks that I've created for myself to view the world and to view myself. Even the way that I view myself and the times that I cry and the times that I get angry or anxious, these are also from those wounds that we have on us. And just the awareness of it allows us to see, okay, how can I heal those wounds? How can I just cover them up in a way that they get better? Or at least not touch them, or to allow others to know where they are. And it really reminds me of the power of being vulnerable and the power of communication, clear communication. I feel like a lot of us aren't communicating clearly our boundaries, especially me. I have not always. And also communicating our feelings, the way that things make us feel, or the way that just our feelings. So I bring this story up to remind myself and to remind you that we all have these wounds. It's because we're human, And I feel that once we are aware of these wounds that happen throughout our lives, it allows us to not be controlled by them or dictated by them. It also helps us recognize where we've touched other people's wounds and how it created problems for them. So really what it is, this wounded mind, what it provides most of all is awareness of ourselves, of others, and the possibilities of the future that we can create. We're the creators of our lives. And I learned that through the Toltec teachings with Don Miguel's family. Oh, what wounds do you have? What wounds are you touching yourself? And what are you allowing other people to touch? It's not that we do it on purpose. We're just constantly touching each other's wounds, whether it's intentionally or unintentionally. And I feel like there's two sides to these wounded mind stories where people have this fight of, people are really having wounds and being vulnerable and voicing them and voicing new boundaries that haven't been voiced in hundreds of thousands of years. And then there's another side where people are using the voices of others to create their own agendas. But that doesn't make the wounds of others unreal, because there are hidden agendas being done by other people when people are voicing these wounds. And then there's another side where people are saying, you're being a victim, you're being corrupt, you're being this, you're being that. And what it just creates is more wounded confusion and words of hatred. And words are spells. The words we say about ourselves and say about others and about the world, they come true. That's why there's manifestation, like the teachings of Jesus. Manifestations, the teaching of, I don't know who else, or just affirmations or prayers. It's the reason why many different people pray. It's because the power of the word that comes out of our mouth. And just use the word to heal your wounds and use the word to speak about your wounds. And I think that it's really sad when I see people pointing fingers of who caused their wounds, but also pointing fingers of people who are acting like a victim. And I mean, the truth of the matter is that people are victims. You can't be a predator without prey. People have to be prey. And I think that it's okay for people to voice when they have been preyed on. I think that those times where people have been prey, it created those wounds. But I think that the story is a reminder that we are in charge of those wounds. We can bring them up and we can heal those wounds, and it's to be safe. So there's just a lot of back and forth in the world, mixed with truths and lies and corruptions and good wantings and evil wantings. And really what people need to do is to step outside of the whole stories and just focus on their story and their truth and their body. And something that I've been struggling with is the balance of communicating my path. It's not that I'm some healed prophet person that people claim to be. 23-year-old girl randomly doing random things, talking about the things that I learned. And there's days where I just don't want to do anything anymore, and I really don't see a point in continuing life on earth. And there's days where I feel very connected to God. And those are the cycles of life, and I don't know how normal that is, or if that's bipolar. There's like all these different labels to give things, and I think it goes back to the different teachings of non-attachment. Like Buddha says, or there's many other teachers that have said that. I don't even know their names, but I'm sure there's thousands. Not attaching to the labels that we give ourselves. Not attaching to saying, oh, I'm this depressed person, I'm this anxious person. I used to tell myself I was anxious and shy every day, and that's what I was, because words are spells. And I thought I was anxious because of the wound that I was given, or that created because of my past. And then my mom said I was anxious, and then people called me shy, and then I said, oh, I am shy. And then that's how a belief system develops, and then you start to speak that into existence, and then you start to act as the person you're labeling yourself as, and you get attached to that as an identity, and then that's the ego. And when I got attached to the identity as being an anxious person, I didn't let it go for years, and most of my childhood was me being scared, not communicating, staying in my room, and not having a social life, and not developing important social skills. But once I detached from thinking that my wound is me, thinking that this label is me, I became me. I'm becoming me. And now I have many different conversations with random people, and I love it. And I love connecting with people. And it turns out I'm not a shy person, but maybe in the past I was. So that's just an example of wounds are there, but they don't need to always stay there, and they don't need to control us, and they're not us. They're not our identity. And I think a lot of the ways that people fight now is through the labeling that they give each other. It's people who want to label different diseases, or people who want to label different sexual interests and all these things to justify their existence of life. And there's not an issue with that. That's the path that they want to live. But then there's also people that tell them not to label themselves this and this and that. And they're getting caught up with other people's wounds and stories and belief systems when we can only live our story. We can only live our truth. I have no idea what other people are going through and what's in their mind and what they experience to create the belief systems that they use to see everything in the world. Everyone is literally living their own world. And I don't know, it may even go to the extent that they're seeing different colors than me and we're all calling this green, but maybe how they see green is different than how I see green. I don't know. It could go to that extent. Or it can be as simple as, what do people justify as skinny? What do people justify as fat? A lot of words are opinion based and a lot of things are subjective. And yeah, so let's just do this thing. I love you all, and I hope to make a video soon, and I hope to hopefully chat with you down below in the chat thing. Peace out.